Bonjour, everybody. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Radio Network here on Facebook live stream via our partners at Be Live TV. I love saying that, Be Live TV. Some people call it Believers. That's it, Believers. I kind of like that. So welcome to the show, Star Nations, Communications from Home. It's Tuesday night, February 13th. And happy pre-Valentine's night to you. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and I tell you what, even if you're not in a relationship, it's Valentine's is everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's hearts, there's all kinds of stuff, all Valentine's. And I have to admit that I actually got into Valentine's Day this year. I did. I even sent out Valentine's. I haven't done that in a long, long time. And the reason why is because I was working on the February issue of Star Nations magazine, and I was reading all the great articles from our contributing writers, and I realized that as adults, we normally don't get a lot of Valentine's cards. We might get one or two, but some people don't get any at all. And so I thought, well, the people I know, they're getting one this year. And so I sent out a bunch of Valentines. And I have to say it was fun. Do you remember in the old days, grade school, when we would exchange Valentines? Do you remember that? That was fun. And, I suppose I should probably tell you who I am. I'm Yvette Lokotz, Neshi Lokotz. I'm your host tonight. I just assume everybody knows me, but that's not true. There's probably a couple people that don't know me. And I am the creator for Star Nations, everything. And tonight is one of the shows that is near and dear to my heart. I love doing this show because I get to talk to people that I believe have a great message to share. And most of my guests are contributing writers or radio show hosts for us. And one of them is tonight. But before we get started, what I'd like to ask you to do for me, and welcome everybody in the chat room already. Thank you for joining us, is to please like, if you would, the show, and also share the broadcast. And I'll tell you the reason why we do this. Almost every show we ask for this, right? Is because social media is changing so quickly and so fast all the time. And the way that people find anybody really, is because we pay attention to them. And so if you like and share the broadcast, other people get to find us. And guess what? Facebook kind of likes that. And so they put us in the news feed a little bit more. And so more people will be able to find us. And the more people will be able to assist and maybe share some information. Maybe they were looking for one piece of information to help them on their spiritual path. So if you would like to do that for me, I'd appreciate it, because I am doing the same thing. I got my phone right here, and it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long at all. And what I'm going to do is I am going to share it to our community here at Star Nations at the closed group radio network. And I'm just going to remind everybody that I am live streaming the show. And the hard part is spelling. And asking them to join me. And I try not to use too big of words, because that way I don't have to worry about the spelling thing. Right there. See, it's really quick and it's very simple. And some people just share it to their timelines, and that's good too. So I'm going to just say hi to a few people in the chat room, and then we're going to get started with the show. Cynthia's with us. Hello, down there in someplace warm. I know you just moved, and I hope you're having a good time in your new home. And Meg's with us. Hey, Meg, thank you for coming and joining us. And she already shared the show. Yeah. You know why? She knows. She's one of our radio show hosts, and one of our contributing writers. Cindy Lynn, hi. Thank you for coming and joining us. I appreciate it. And Jacqueline's in the house too. Oh my gosh, all the ladies are here. Yeah, and Cindy Lynn. Yep, there she goes. She just got it. There you go. Thank you for joining us. And I have my guest tonight. You guys know her already. And hopefully you've read some of her articles in the magazine, in Star Nations magazine. And she's one of my favorite people. And the reason why she's one of my favorite people, because I think she is one of the kindest people I've ever met. I don't think I've ever heard her say anything bad about anyone or anything, and she just has such a big heart. And she is the person that I asked if she would please write for Star Nations magazine. And we asked her to write for the health and healing section of the magazine under her column, which is about emotional health. And a lot of you know her. Her name is Nicole Fix. And you might, in the old days, like maybe a few months ago, when we were at Blog Talk Radio, sometimes you would hear her voice on the voiceovers for our radio shows. And so she has been a part of Star Nations for a long time. But if some of you might not know this, is that she has a licensed master's degree of social work. She has a background in counseling individuals dealing with substance use disorders and trauma, as well as providing crisis intervention, which also includes suicide intervention. Until recently, Nicole spent 10 years handling catastrophic injury claims. A lot of people don't know that about her either. She is one of, if you have something going on and there's a crisis, Nicole is the calm influence in all of that. She is a Reiki master and an Amadeus healer. She has lectured on the rise of the feminine attribute in addition to the internal power people have to be agents of change. Nicole looks forward to continuing her focus on individual empowerment and based on principles of love, compassion, and acceptance. And just recently, and I'm hoping she's going to tell us a little bit about this, she recently started her private practice. So I'm going to bring her on. Okay, we're going to get rid of this other thing, and we're going to bring Nicole on, and we're going to do this. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, good evening.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here and taking time to be with us tonight. I know that you live a busy life, and I know that to take some time out and chat with us, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. It's good to be here. I'm happy to spend my time with you.
Yeah, and it's true. You are one of the kindest people I know. And so Meg says, I love Nicole's articles.
Oh, thanks, Meg.
Yeah. And we're going to show one of those articles, your February article, in just a minute. So the reason why I had asked you on the show, and I have to say it was an inspiration from your February article. I get to see the articles and read them through, half a dozen times or more before we're actually published, And so it was really the very first time I read through your article that I realized that, this would be a really good thing to talk about on a radio show. And since this show comes on the night before Valentine's, I thought, what better time than to talk about love and emotional health and actually feeling your feelings, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the big questions I had, because maybe some of our listeners may not know a good definition, a definition that fits for them. Cindy is telling you hello. Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
What is emotional health?
Well, yeah, emotional health is, I would describe it as really being in touch with our feelings. And that means the good feelings that make us, that are very pleasurable, but also like the difficult feelings, the challenging feelings that are not very enjoyable. So we experience, you know, a whole range of emotions each day, really, and certainly throughout our lives, and depending on the circumstances that are going on in our lives, what may be happening. But we can experience times where life is full of suffering, but where life is also full of joy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really being in touch with our emotions. So, and feeling them. So,
And feeling them, not suppressing them.
not suppressing them. And that's, you know, I think culturally we have been in a place where we've been dismissive of feelings and of the importance of feelings. And, you know, we tell babies a lot, don't cry, trying to fix it. And it's actually, that teaches emotional dysregulation. So
Emotional dysregulation. What is that?
Right. So emotional regulation is like the ability to be able to regulate your emotions. But to be able to regulate your emotions, you have to be able to feel your emotions. So like, you know, Sophia, my 3-year-old daughter, has some very intense emotions. And rather than trying to suppress them or dismiss them or tell her why they're not important, you know, every single emotion is allowed in our house, you know, and that's teaching her. It can be counterintuitive to our culture, but it's teaching her emotional regulation. So that to me is emotional health, being in touch with our emotions, being able to regulate them, feel them and process them.
Yeah, you know, and you're right. We live in a culture, both the Western culture and, I have to admit, the Native American culture, that, you know, we don't necessarily allow ourselves to feel the range of emotions. Because I can even remember hearing my mom tell us, you know, is never show anybody what makes you really happy, and never let them see you cry.
Because in those moments, I'm guessing, and maybe you can explain it better, but we're very vulnerable.
Right. And so what, in her eyes, because she and I have talked about this, in her eyes, she felt that she was protecting us. Right.
Yeah.
And in the long run, it took my brothers and I quite a long time to work through that and to be able to express our emotions, accept them, express them, and know when to actually talk about them in a way that is healthy.
Right. Because, I mean, if we were completely and totally emotional beings, we all may walk around and be sometimes flat out hot mess. So we do need to be able to, you know, and that's part of the regulation, is feeling them, honoring them, you know, identifying them, labeling them, but then also using our logic and our rational mind to be able to then move on with our day at times.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when you boil it all down, correct me if I'm wrong, when we boil it all that down, what we're talking about is balance.
Yes.
Emotional balance.
Yes. Yeah, the whole mental and emotional balance, and that there's a time where you have to suck it up, so to speak, and just handle it and get through the day. But then there's also a time where you're in a safe situation, a safe place to feel your feelings and to outlet them in a healthy way.
Right. To go ahead and have the ugly cry.
Yes. Yes. There's so much of it.
Having an ugly cry sometimes is definitely, for me, is the release safety valve. And I do that, and I'm good to go for a long time.
It's so cathartic. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, you know, the people who are watching our show, how many of you guys have had that ugly cry? I mean, really, you know, your nose is running and, you know, you're sobbing really loud. If anybody ever watched Diane Keaton in one of her movies where she was a playwright and she just wailed, that's kind of what I'm talking about, you know. Now, as they're going to be hopefully replying to that question, what I'd like to show people, Nicole, is your article. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give it its little solo here. And the title of it is Listening to Our Hearts. And I found this great picture to go with it. And the picture is of a woman holding a heart. It's like, looks like, maybe a clay heart or something like that. And it's got Band-Aids over the top of it. And I found that because I thought, sometimes we feel like our heart is broken, and feeling those feelings is really tough to do. Wait a minute. I'm going to find a good position for this. There we go. So if you could help us understand, what was your thinking around creating this article? Because really, this is the seed for this show.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how it came to be. I think one of the subject matters was like heart or something of that effect. And it was kind of a moment of, like thinking about, okay, what's the purpose of our heart, and, listening to our hearts and being more in touch with our, emotions and our intuition, and not being afraid of that. But then I remembered just this time in my life, and that's how I start the article, but where I was going through an extremely painful breakup. Mm. And my heart hurt. It physically hurt so incredibly bad. And, no surprise, especially like in the spiritual world, I kept saying, he broke my heart. My heart was breaking. And it was. And, my heart was hearing me talk as well. But I was having just these horrible like chest pains. And so going through the agony of the breakup itself from an emotional standpoint, but then physically feeling it too in my heart, just like kind of leaning into that and honoring that, but then getting to a place where I had recovered from that pain. I just remember it dawning on me. I was feeling like an incredible amount of joy. I don't remember the exact situation that was happening, but just the thought that went along with it, and that it dawned on me in that moment that I was feeling joy in the very same places that I felt breaking in my heart when it physically ached. Uh-huh. And it was an epiphany in that, our ability to experience joy is a direct reflection of our ability to experience suffering. So by going through the agony of the suffering, I grew my heart to a place that allowed me to experience more joy in the same places. Yeah. And that's just an incredible lesson, I think, for all of us, and just a memory for all of us, to not be afraid of the pain if we can get through it and honor it and appreciate it, knowing that it's going to gift us with the ability to experience more pleasure.
Right. I thought that piece that you wrote about, it was insightful, and it was one of those aha moments, right? Mm-hmm. That the same places that we feel the pain and the hurt and the break, mm-hmm. is the same place that we feel the joy and the beauty and the love.
Right.
And to me, that was like an epiphany. It was that aha moment. It's like, because when we heal those places in ourselves, that's where we get to recognize and see and feel the love and that the other side of that, right?
Yes. And knowing that now, and I know that in my life I'm going to experience more challenges and more difficult times, but knowing that there is another side, because I've seen it and I've experienced the pleasure in those same pieces that once held pain. It gives me permission, and it helps me, give others permission to acknowledge and honor that pain, because it's just as important to who we are.
Right. And as people who are attuned to energy, and feelings are energy, right? When we come across somebody, including ourselves, who are hiding that pain, they think they're hiding it and they're not. And so, because we can feel it, and sometimes we can actually see it within their aura or their physical body, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why at a very, very young age, I became a hugger, because I could see it, I could feel it. And so I'd go and give them a hug, And so that was the epiphany. That was the reason why I wanted to have this show, is because I wanted to make sure that we shared that with as many people as we possibly can, especially around this particular Hallmark holiday. Now, I wanted to share with you, Nicole, is that, first of all, hello, Julie Hedges. Julie is in the house, and she says, yes, I had an ugly cry today. Well, and thank you for sharing that with us, Julie. I appreciate that, because that means that you were actually taking care of yourself. And then she also says, Nicole, she says, yes, in heartbreak, my physical heart hurt. And when we feel it in our physical body, that kind of hurt, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's one of our indicators that it's been around for a while, if we're feeling it in our physical heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because it takes some intensity for it to get to our physical body, some length of time for it to get into our physical body. So yeah, it's been around for some time. It's some incredible, painful feelings that are coming up.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
In the promo for the show, I had written something about love taking us to the highest, dizziest heights, and love actually bringing us to our lowest lows. And it's not so much that the love is doing that, but it's our reaction to the love, our reaction to embracing it and finding all the positive things in it and the feeling of being in love. And then when we're in our lowest lows, when we feel that the love is being either removed from us, or we recognize it that maybe it wasn't really love. Sometimes I think that's the harder one, because we have to be honest with ourselves and say, what did I just do?
Yeah. Right. I'm just thinking, like, sometimes love is, enhanced by things we think, things we believe, things we've dreamed, things we've imagined. So coming to a place of realization that it may not be all of the things that we had hoped or dreamed or thought.
Right.
So it's not only like sometimes the loss of a person, but the loss of like this ideal that we had in our mind. Yeah.
I have to agree. Because, well, there's two things to that. Well, that zipped through my mind just now is the being a romantic. We hear that phrase a lot, that, oh, you're a romantic, and that you love being in love, and you love watching people be in love. And so Hallmark movies, they make a lot of money because there's a lot of romantics. But, on the same token, those people who we would call a romantic, they're also the ones that process their feelings differently than those of us that are not romantics.
Yeah, I would say I'm a Pisces, left-handed Pisces, very much a feeler. I am one of those people. I feel feelings very strongly. But yeah, I'm a very emotional person. But yeah, those are those of us that are really in touch with the feelings of others, and we pick up feelings of other people, and yeah, the feelings of people in our immediate vicinity, but then the collective that we're feeling, and plus our own stuff. And
Yep.
yeah, so
And the other piece that went through my mind, other than the romantic thing, is that sometimes what we do is we create this, I don't want to call it an illusion, but maybe it is that we don't really see that love, whether it's a romantic love or whether it is a friendship love or a love for a sibling or a parent, that we create this perfect sort of image, and nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. And so when the reality meets the illusion, and they kind of collide, and they normally do, that breaking is it's very intense. It's very intense. How does somebody handle something like that? Would you suggest that? Because some of our listeners and some of the people watching, they could be at the beginning of that or in the middle of that.
So like you're saying someone who is coming to the realization that this love that they were feeling is not really what they thought it was. Maybe this person isn't the person that they thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to really work on a couple of things. One would be, feeling the feelings and processing some of those feelings. But there's a lot of thoughts that go along with the feelings. So I would want to explore what some of the thoughts are that someone's thinking, like what that love meant to them, what it was that they would thought that it was fulfilling in them. And, what kind of thought processes were there before and now during, and just kind of exploring that ideal that was there. Yeah, because it's bound to happen. And yeah, realizing that, I mean, whether it be with a friend or a loved one, like a spouse or a partner, a child, create these, fictitious hopes and beliefs.
Yeah.
So, and then coming to the reality of, this may not be what I thought, or this might not be the person I thought they were. And
yeah, and I think that when we get to that point of the realization, sometimes we start to question ourselves. I thought I could count on my intuition. I thought I could count on my logic. I thought I could count on being able to read people. And they start questioning themselves, which leads to trust, really. So when you were talking about sitting down and having a question, time to talk about it and find out more information from them. When you ask questions like that, what is the one question that you end up asking more often than others? Because there's usually one. At least I know that there's one. Is that when I ask that question, it's like people kind of stop in their tracks and sometimes they don't know, or all of a sudden they realize, oh my gosh, that's it.
Oh, I guess, it's exploring that underlying thought of like, what did that love mean for you? What did that relationship mean for you? What was the symbolism in it? and what does it seem as though you've lost now? And I guess just really like considering the relationship within the relationship, the symbolism of it, you know.
Yeah. The symbolism of it, because most people don't go there. Most people go to the tangible, the what happened, you know, the who said what, who did what, when.
Yeah, kind of like the blame, or, you know, even like you saying something about like trying to blame ourselves of, you know, like I should have known, I'm super intuitive, goodness, I had warning signs going off, why didn't I listen to those? You know, and we all do it, and we're going to keep doing it. But once we get past those, it's like, okay, well, you know, it has happened. Let's, you know, think about like some of the reasons that you were attracted to this person or this, you know, relationship. What were your hopes and dreams, and how was it fulfilling those? And then, you know, just kind of the loss.
Yeah.
And the ideal.
The ideal. And, you know, one of the things that we've done as teachers in the past, especially feng shui, okay, because if I've gotten one question, I've gotten it a million times about how can I find my partner using feng shui, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, one of the techniques is that you make a list of your ideal. What do you want in a partner? Mm-hmm. What do you want them to be like? What do you want them to look like? What do you want it to feel like? You know, and so, and really that helps people to get clear, and it helps them to be open to the energy of that, right? But you know, as we're talking here, I'm thinking, you know, I wonder if that's really such a great exercise, because then you're setting it up to be the ideal, and when it turns out not to be the ideal, then you start blaming the blame game about yourself, and this is what I brought into my life, this is what I, you know. Right.
Yes. No, I get that. And I did that with David. So I had my list on my I had a napkin with all these things that I wanted in a man. He was my Mr. Man before I met him. So, and it's funny because tomorrow it represents 10 years since we were engaged. So
really,
yeah, it's been a quick 10 years.
It went by like that.
It did go by like that. But, you know, so I mean, I guess I can relate in the sense of like you are wanting to attract into your life this ideal person. You think he's going to be, you know, or this person's going to be your soulmate. It's going to solve all of your problems. And then, you know, reality sets in after and then you attract this person, and it's magic. Like you see the universe operating in this intensely beautiful, divine way. And it fulfills you in this piece of you of like, yes, the universe has my back, and I am able to co-create, and all of these, you know, it makes it really, really special.
Right.
But then reality does set in, and realization that, you know, none of us is perfect, and no relationship is perfect. And
nope.
Yeah, one of the things, just adding to that, one of the things I've realized for myself with myself, so a lot of the work that I do, and then this is true with relationships with children, whatever, but it's, you know, this getting to a place, I mean, some relationships aren't healthy and need to be changed. Yes. But getting to this place of, I'm going to love you anyway. So this is just reminding me in my own place of a choice of us to do that. And like but first we've got to, I think, get to a place where we can let go of the ideal, or having this.
Yeah. Because, you know, I mean, what you brought to my mind is that Paul and I have been together for 38 years, and we've been married 38. We've known each other for 39 years. And, we're still together. We're still laughing. Doesn't mean that we don't have issues, because we do. And one of the long-standing ones, and he's at work right now, so I can talk about it, is the ideal guy would, in my world, when I was 18, 19, would be able to put his laundry in the hamper, lift the lid, and put it in. And I know I'm making light of this, but those are the small things are the ones that get to you after a while. It's like, I didn't realize that hamper lid was so heavy, so I took the lid off the hamper.
It is those little things.
It is the little things.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make light of it, but it is, yes, we have this list of the ideal, and in the reflection of it, in the work that I used to do with Feng Shui, is that looking at the list and then having them look at their own list about themselves. What are your attributes that you would bring to a relationship?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, because the person that you want to bring into your life, they're looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
So what are your attributes that you feel that would be enhance this relationship? What are you bringing to the table?
Right.
What are you bringing to the yeah.
Well, that's good to think about. Yeah, because and I think so much, and for those who are more spiritually minded, we can have the thought of we've got this soulmate out there, which there's some believe that, some don't, but then reality is going to set in, because even if it's your soulmate might not be able to throw their clothes in the hamper by themselves, right? So,
well, what is the real meaning of soulmate, right? I mean, they're here to help you grow and help each other to grow, and sometimes that growth comes in ways that you didn't expect.
Yes, and the reality of being reflected back, and ourselves being reflected back in a way that we've never seen before, or we didn't realize existed, and that happens. So I like the Feng Shui, listing your attributes that you bring to a relationship, but also like getting in touch with the fact that we do have our own shortcomings. So, I am not always kind. I'm glad you that way, but I'm not always kind. So I try.
Well, the times that I've seen you, the times that we've had interaction, I've only seen the kind part of you.
Right.
In the same way with Paul, I mean, people will say, "Oh, she's got such a big heart," and he's looking at me. He goes, "They haven't seen you just before a class when you're running around the house trying to get everything put in order."
Right. If we were in an ongoing intimate relationship where we lived together for a long time, we would see those parts of it.
Or when I'm trying to download software or fix something on the computer and it's going too slow,
Right.
And I get impatient, and so Paul usually takes over at that point.
It's good.
He has more patience for that than I do. One of the things, Nicole, that I did this week, that I'm doing, I should say, is I put out, I create these, I guess you could call it a meme, is in using Valentine's Day. And I ran across something in a book by Oprah. She put together all of the Sunday, Super Soul Sundays things, And there's a few quotes in there, and I've been using them, and it kind of reminded me of what we were going to be talking about tonight. And I just wanted to show a couple of them. So here's one that I put out, I think it was yesterday. It says, to be loved means to be recognized as existing. Embrace your beloved one with mindfulness, and she will bloom like a flower. I did correct that spelling mistake, by the way. I just grabbed the wrong one.
Sweet.
And, and just when I read this one, it was about being seen, being recognized.
Mm-hmm.
That you're present with that person.
Mm-hmm. I love Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, me too. In fact, most of these are from him.
Oh.
Yeah, here's another one. Just your presence is helpful and healing for your beloved.
Yeah. And that's, I do a lot of work with families that are in crisis, and particularly like kids and their parents. And, but just talking about the power of you don't have to fix it, and that's the same for ourselves with our own feelings and our own heart, is like just being present with and being mindful in that moment. Yep. And not having to make it better, just allowing it to be. And some of the things I love about Thich Nhat Hanh is he's all about the Buddhist philosophy and being mindful and being emotionally present and not having to make suffering go away, but just needing to hold it gently.
Right. That is an aspect of you. Right. It's an aspect. And Jack Kornfield had a really good one too. He said, to be awake is to live here so that when you are with the person you love, you're really present. You're very present. And I have to say that, most of the people that I know that have long-term relationships, they don't even have to talk about it. That when you watch their relationship, that you can see that in that relationship, that they're listening to each other. They have they're really with each other, and they don't even have to really be very verbal. You can see it, you can sense it. Yeah.
And that's the listening part. You don't have to make it better. You don't have to dismiss it or say why that experience is not happening. It's just back to that allowing it to be.
Right. And here's another one. Offer your beloved your true presence. Thich Nhat Hanh again. So, that was a lot about being present in the relationship. But, one of the things that I got out of that, Nicole, was that if you want your relationship, that special somebody to be present for you, then you have to be present for them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, that's unfortunately, sometimes that's the harder part of it, is to really be there for them.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking how we have to get comfortable individually, in a relationship, collectively as a society, but just of sitting with someone when they are having, both painful and pleasurable feelings. But that, a lot of discomfort can come up in us too. And so getting comfortable with some of those more uncomfortable emotions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I suppose we could actually say that we're recognizing, we're seeing the uncomfortable emotions as much as we're paying attention to the positive, good feeling emotions, right? Mm-hmm. And even though the uncomfortable ones are definitely harder.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. There's no making that pretty. There's no softening that. Because that would be, I think that would be totally dishonest. It's like, because everybody has gone through something. Uh-oh, we lost her. There she is. I don't know what happened, but she's back. She's going to come in. Here she is.
I'm back.
You disappeared.
Oh. Yeah. Darkness. That's what I was thinking about too. Just
oh, really?
But getting comfortable with the darkness and finding, and that's one of the things I'm dedicated to in the work that I do, is finding the beauty in the darkness and finding the beauty in the suffering, because there is beauty. And I was reading someone, a woman by the name of Regina Thomas Hauer, who talks about it's like playing the piano and playing those really dark, deep notes on the keyboard. And they're quite beautiful and intense. And those are the representation of those times in our life. And think of how that sounds on the keyboard, and that when you're playing the music. Yeah, and just makes it.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they're kind of haunting in a way, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And yet they're a part of the scale. They're part of the musical scale.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of the universe, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. You know, and if we here I go. This is the Sagittarian in me. Okay, so we're going to get a little philosophical here. Is with that, we can talk about how our vibration in the universe is in octaves, and we are actually musical. We have a special song that we came in with. And in order to know all aspects of our song, we also have to know the lower notes, the lower. I'm not a musician, so anybody in the chat room who is a musician, if you can help me with those lower keys, what they're actually called, is that we have to know those too, as well as the ones that are more in the higher range, you know.
Yeah, that's a great way to tie it in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I talk about this in my article too, but that we are all, you know, the heart is the first thing in our body that develops, and it connects us to our mother. And then looking at the symbolism of that, you know, connection with the connection to the divine, the feminine aspect, but then also with Mother Earth. Mm-hmm. And the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
Right.
That hearts are all beating as one collectively on this earth. Mm-hmm. And it is through the pain, it is through the joy that we all connect. And that we're all hardwired for empathy through our great joyous times of our life, but also through those really painful, troubling times of our life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is how that's empathy. That's how we empathize, and we're hardwired for that.
Right. Exactly. We're hardwired for it. Cynthia's saying there are no shortcuts.
Right.
You're right. There isn't.
And the more we try, I think that to avoid, you know, things, the longer it can take. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the avoidance, like it doesn't exist. You ignore it. It still comes back around. Mm-hmm. Different forms, different ways. There it is again, mm-hmm. And it doesn't resolve until you're ready to face it and to deal with it. Okay, I'm going to do both sides of this. As someone who is supporting a good friend, somebody that they love, when they're going through the lows of it, because a lot of people, some people don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. They don't know what do you do to be helpful?
I think that, first, I think when someone's struggling and you know that they're struggling, but they're saying, like, you come to them and they're like, I'm fine, everything's fine. And you know, kind of it's a facade and they're just putting up a front. It depends on certainly your friendship with them, but continuing to reach out. So because a lot of times when someone is suffering, they're not going to be the one to reach out. So, we'll say, hey, if you need something, let me know. Well, does anyone ever really do that? So I know. So, and I have to remind myself of that too, is when someone is suffering, the person that is noticing that and is not the ones suffering. We're the ones that need to reach out. So we can't say, just let me know if you need anything. We have to do it. So, but then just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, and you know, what do you need help with today? Or just getting comfortable sitting with someone as they process their own difficult feelings, and not without trying to fix them.
I know, and that's the hardest piece, I think, Nicole, because most of the people who are in our community, in Star Nation's community, you know, we want to help as much as we can, and so we start giving out, you know, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Maybe you should do this, you know, and as the receiver of that, first of all, you're feeling overwhelmed. One, you didn't ask for it. And then you're feeling overwhelmed. And then, and some of the things you had tried with little or no result. And so, yeah, I think the hard part is just to be present. Sometimes all it is just to be able to be with them and maybe hold their hand or give them a hug or fix them a cup of tea and sitting together in quiet, you know?
Right. Just sitting in quiet, and validating the experience, like, you know, validating the feelings and just reflecting what like, you know, if someone's clearly feeling sad, is just like, I know this is really hard right now. And, you know, without trying to give advice, and it is hard to do that. But that is how we connect as human beings. It's through those simple acts. And when we're giving advice without someone asking advice, which we all do, and, you know, we all try not to, but we want to help alleviate suffering. But that sometimes can disconnect. So trying to, you know, just remember that the connection is in the listening.
Right. And I think that what you said about the person who's going through the suffering, chances are of them reaching out and calling you and saying, I do need this, is kind of slim. They will eventually, but usually not until they're right in the hardest part and they can't take it anymore. They don't know what else to do, is when they start reaching out. And then by that time, you're going to have somebody pretty almost hysterical on your hands. You know, and the thing is that listening, I think, is going to be hard to do, but to listen to what they have to say, even though they repeat themselves multiple times.
Right. Right. And, you know, it's knowing like that their experience is very real and very valid, and you know, we don't need to fix it. Dealing with our own discomfort, our own feelings of helplessness, whatever maybe coming up for us. But,
and there's a reason why you might be that particular friend, that particular someone special for them, that answer that call, that are the ones that show up, because you have the ability, maybe even the tools, if I can call it that. You're the one who has the best gifts coming in to be able to be with them.
Right. Yeah. So there is a meaning there. Yeah. Us being called into service as a friend or loved one.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, on the flip side of that, Nicole, the flip side of it, when you are the person who is suffering and going through the lows, not feeling very lovable, right? And when you're in that place and someone reaches out to you, you know, what's the best way to be able to accept that?
You know, I always recommend having, and you don't need many, but at least 1 to 2, maybe 3 supports that are people that you really trust And those are the people that you share with. Who can you trust that you can share with? And that's all you need. You don't need, if maybe a friend does reach out that's more of an acquaintance, and as grateful as you are to that person, that might not be the person you want to open up to. So, but having 1 to 2 close people that you trust, that you can be open with about whatever's going on.
Right.
So, and then, it's kind of, we are in a vulnerable position ourselves. So just acknowledging that it's hard to ask for help.
Right. When you're in the midst of it, when you're in the lowest of the low, it is difficult. But and I'm only talking from personal experience. It's that when you're in that place and when you do reach out, some of it has to do with helping you to identify who are those people that are really in your life that are who they say they are and will do what they say they will do. And it's a good thing. Now, when I was in it and looking out at it, I didn't see it that way. But, once you're through it and past it, and you're able to process some of it, it really is a gift to find out who those few people are that you can rely on, and that they do love you so much. Yeah, it's a good thing. But when in the midst of it, we have to be honest and say, you may not recognize that until later.
That's a good point. Yeah, because sometimes you think you have like 5 people in your life that you think you would rely on, and then several may not be able to be present for you, and you may look back and realize there were 1 to 2 people. That helps define it in the future, knowing like who are your 1 to 2 people, but not putting that pressure on yourself to have to use 5. Like 5 is a lot. Like 1 to 2 close people.
Yeah,
you can be, that you can lean on, and I know we all logically get it that everyone has a time for suffering and pain, and that we need to be very gentle and compassionate on ourselves when it is our time to be the one that is going through it, because a lot of us are givers.
We're going to take turns.
Yes.
We'll take turns.
Yes, right. We'll take turns, and then no one wants really that turn, but not everyone needs to know what you're going through. But 1 or 2 close people.
Right. That's true. And as long as, just kind of recapping, as long as that, that love does exist, and that it's a constant, it doesn't go away. It's how we perceive it and how we see it and how we're with it that does the changing. Right. So, we're at the top of the hour. These things go by so quickly.
Yeah,
really we do. I just wanted to thank you again for being here with us and sharing that kind of insight and that aha moment. I think that was so important. And in the last few seconds here, do you have any last words for our audience that you'd like them to know before we say goodnight?
Just, I guess, recapping some of what we've already said, but just the importance of feeling your feelings and not being afraid of them, or not letting them overpower us either. But just acknowledging that they're valid and they're real, and not trying to escape them.
That's a good one. Not trying to escape them or to avoid them.
Right.
Yeah, right. And I guess my last couple of words is that you'll get through it. You might not think you will, but you'll get through it. And for those who are in a good, loving, healthy relationship, more blessings to you. Good for you. And yeah, we like hearing about the good stuff too. And Cynthia is saying, loved listening to you ladies. Thank you. Well, you're welcome, Cynthia. That's good. Thank you for being with us. And with that, I would like to thank everybody for being with us tonight on this Tuesday night for Star Nation's Communications from Home. And next week, my guest is Patty Herdia. She is a brand new contributing writer. And you know what? I just thought of something, Nicole. You got to say at least a little something about your new practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, I just opened my own practice, and actually Patty and I are sharing office space. So just kind of cool synchronicities.
Yeah.
But it's a private practice, counseling practice. I work a lot with self-compassion and working through, any difficult situations that we're experiencing with grace and with compassion for ourselves. So, yeah.
And the name of your new practice?
So, yeah, the name of my new practice, it's called Eastern Door Counseling. And you can find me at easterndoorcounselingllc.com. I'm also on Facebook as NicoleFix. One of the writers for Star Nations, but Eastern Door Counseling. Very excited to be starting this endeavor. So.
Absolutely. And if it's okay with you, after the show, I will put that contact in the comments in case somebody's looking for a counselor. They'll be able to contact you.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So anyway, her office partner, they share part of the office together, is Patty Herdia. And Patty Herdia is going to be with me next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. For Star Nation's Communications from Home. And we're going to be talking about Patty being our new contributing writer starting in March. Yay! So with that, everybody have a great rest of the week and happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Good night, everybody.